Okay, today I'm gonna make a video in English with Korean subtitles because I kind of wanted to talk about something brand new that I got, and I'm not super familiar with a lot of Korean cushions. I know in Asia cushions are super popular, but I've kind of always just preferred liquid foundation, and it wasn't until more recently that I actually got back into liquid foundation. But recently I saw an advertisement for a very pretty cushion, and I figured I would give it a shot. These days it's very hot, so I think the biggest concern for a lot of people is longevity. And if you have oily skin, controlling the oil and, not dealing with your foundation breaking up. But because of that, I was also very curious about this new cushion, and I personally have fairly dry skin, so I don't really have to worry too much about oil control, but I was curious about a long wearing cushion, and so I decided to give this one a shot. So it kind of looks like this. This is the packaging, and this is flipped, but it's the Dinto Blur Finish cushion. I don't know, I think you can buy it on Olive Young Global, but I just kind of picked it up online here, and it claims to, as you can see, blur finish, oil controlling, long wearing, transfer proof, or at least minimal transfer, and the shades go fairly pale. I was extremely surprised by that because oftentimes a lot of the cushions don't go pale enough, surprisingly. But yeah, so this one they didn't have in store, so I wasn't able to test it. I kind of just went off what I figured, and I believe they have 8 shades or something. They don't go super dark, but I got the shade M13, which is the palest shade. It's called Soy Oak or Snow Jade. But anyway, yeah, so I got this color, and I would say it's definitely a lot paler than I expected. It definitely feels paler than my skin tone. At this point, I've been wearing it for about 8 hours, so some of it may have faded, but more or less you can kind of get the idea. Compared to my neck, I would say my neck is a little bit yellower, but this cushion doesn't claim to be pink or warm toned, cool or warm toned, just kind of somewhere in between. So yeah, I guess just keep that in mind. It is extremely pale. I would say usually I wear Espoir 13N, and that one is a hair pale, but it tends to darken a tiny bit when it oxidizes, so it looks, I would say, pretty good. But I think this one is a little bit paler than the Espoir, but I will show swatches later. I'll do a couple of those in my hand. I generally wear glowy foundation, so I wanted to try something a little bit different, something a little more coverage, with more coverage, and I found that this is very high coverage. I barely tapped it at all, and it was extremely high coverage. But I still feel like it looks like skin. Again, this is 8-9 hours, I believe, after I first applied it. So it looks a bit different. Obviously, my skin is not perfect. But, yeah, I'm still pretty content. I really didn't apply a ton in the morning just because the pale color alarmed me. But I think it oxidized a tiny bit because it doesn't look terrible now, although I would still say that I would prefer a foundation a little more yellow, which is kind of why I like the Espoir foundation. I currently use Be Glow. I prefer that one because it feels a little bit more warm toned. Again, I'll show swatches later, but I have a couple different foundations that I want to compare it to. I don't know if someone has more oily skin, how this cushion would fare on them, but I thought it looked very pretty, and I was very surprised. I don't like heavy feeling foundation, and I didn't find that it transferred. I'm not sure. I didn't use a ton, but really you don't need much for pretty good coverage in my experience. but I don't currently have horrible dry patches or anything like that, but I felt like it went on pretty well. So I have a bunch of foundations, like I said before, that I will be swatching later, and I will kind of compare the shade M13 with those so you can see how pale it is. Let's see, right here I have the S4B Glow. I think this is 20C. So I have this shade, I'll swatch this on my wrist, and then I have the Hera Silky Stay 13N1. I find this to be a lot darker than the Reflection Skin Glow by Hera in 13N1, but I'll swatch these three, and then I have the S4 Foundation Stick in shade 20. So I will also be swatching this, and then I have the S4B Glow in 13N. I really like this shade as well. I think it looks very pretty, so I have this one too that I can swatch. And then lastly, I do have one other cushion from Takobo. It's their Apple Dewy Fit. This is shade 17 Cloud. I find this cushion to be pretty pale, but I will also be swatching that. I would say that these two are the palest, but I will show you those soon. I actually found that in the past, Silky Stay was almost too dark, and they don't have a shade lighter than this, so unfortunate. But I mean, you could always mix foundations. So anyway, yeah, just not a super long video. I just wanted to mention that I got this recently, tried it out today for the first time. I was pleasantly surprised. I guess I should have checked the website swatches more carefully, because they did look extremely pale, if I'm being honest, but I decided to go with it anyway because you can never tell with swatches on the website, and there weren't really a ton of reviews. A couple of them said that it oxidized a little bit darker, so I figured even if it was paler, it would be okay. I did apply like a decent amount of bronzer slash contour. You might not be able to see it now, but I think that made it look a little bit more wearable. And for the record, right now my face is kind of sweaty and oily because I did work out as well. So this is the cushion through all of that. So I think it looks fairly decent after all this time. Redness around my nose, I guess starting to peek through a little bit, but not horrible. I guess it's kind of redness that I'm comfortable with, but covered up everything fairly nicely. Again, in Seoul right now, it is very humid and rainy, so probably one of the worst combinations. So I'm pretty surprised it's still on my face. But I did use this fixing spray as well, just because I'm very iffy about transfer. I don't like when foundation transfers at all, which is part of the reason that I don't reach for this cushion a ton. It transfers like crazy. And I know, like, if you prefer glowy foundations, it's just something you kind of expect to an extent. But even when I wear like the Hera Reflection Skin Glow, I probably wear this foundation the most out of all of my foundations, but I would say this one is like a very close second. You can kind of see the back. I've had it tilted the whole day, but yeah, so these two, and I don't find that there's really a ton of transfer with these, so didn't really mind that. I also tried the S4B Velvet fairly recently. Don't have the swatches for that, but I just used a sample and I really liked that one as well, but felt a little dry, but it lasted a very long time and like little to no transfer. That was the liquid formula. I didn't try the cushion, although I heard the cushion is potentially better than the liquid. So I'm not sure, but I will insert a photo slash video of me doing these swatches. See, I have about 8 different colors that I can compare it to. The things that looking between M13 and M17, the shade is extremely similar. So maybe if I had gotten M17, it would have been better, but they're extremely similar. And then on top of that, VDL, a very famous cream, I believe it's a cream brand, they came out with a new shade range for their Cover Stain foundation and neutrals. I have swatched the A shades and the V shades. Definitely don't really think that I want a pink toned foundation. I would say my neck is neutral to warm, so I'm very curious about their neutral shades. I just don't know how dark they are. And to clarify, I would say my skin is probably, if a 15 exists, probably around a 15. I'm not the palest, but on the paler end. 15, maybe 17. Hard to say, but around there. And I would say more neutral to warm toned. So anyway, I will insert the swatches now. So if we're going in order from top to bottom, top is the Hera Reflection Glow 13N1. And then the second shade from the top is the Silky Stay 13N1. Just below that is Espoir B Glow 20C. Below that is Espoir B Glow 13N. Below that is the Espoir 20 Shade Foundation Stick Vanilla. Below that is the Tacobo Dewy Fit Shade 17 Cloud. And at the very bottom, we have the brand new Dinto Blur Finish Cushion in shade M13 Jade Snow. So if I show you in different lighting, it might be a little bit easier to see, but the M13 is quite pale in comparison. I would say maybe the Hera Reflection is somewhat closer in shade, but it is clearly a lot paler than the other shades. And as you can see also with the Hera, the very top shade is the Skin Reflection 13N1, and the bottom is the Silky Stay, so kind of frustrating with that as well if you were curious. The 13 shade is a lot noticeably darker than the 13N1 Skin Reflection. So yeah, just so you can get an idea of a lot of different similar foundation shades, but I would definitely say this is the palest foundation I've seen in a while. Especially surprising when you compare it to Espoir 13N. It is noticeably paler.